This is Greg Troutwine with Maritime Reporter TV, and we're very pleased to be joined today by Gregory Darling, the Group Managing Director of Applied Satellite Technologies. How did you find yourself in a career in communications?
Okay, well, my background is ships. I've spent a bit of time with survey ships that survey the seabed, taking information to plan offshore installations, mostly hydrographic and marine geophysical work. So I was involved with ships, and we had a ship in West Africa, and we couldn't communicate with it very easily. This was a long, long time ago. You can tell by my grey hair. So we put a call out via radio, and it didn't get through. The ship left port, was starting to come back to the UK, and we wanted to turn it round because we had another job, and we couldn't. So that was a bit frustrating. We lost 2 ship days because of that. And then I tasked myself with buying a satellite connection. So I then bought a Magnavox 2400, cost $35,000, I remember it, and that was just a phone so that we could manage our ship in West Africa. And I found it expensive, I found it difficult to use, and we were even billed in SDRs, which were special drawing rights. And I didn't even know what a special drawing right was. So I thought if I was confused, then there's an opportunity here. So that was the seed that was sown. And then a couple of years later, I set up AST to apply satellite technology to users' problems. And that really was the start. So that was me in a rented unit with a part-time lady in one tent.
Can you just give me a brief overview of AST today, your activities today?
We're not just in one small room. We have 1 to 4 offices in the UK, an office in Phoenix in the US, 2 offices in Singapore, 2 offices in Australia, and some smaller sort of sub-offices in Jakarta, Quito in Ecuador, and Rotterdam.
Okay, so when you look at the company you founded in 1992, how is it the most the same? How is it most different?
It's completely different. There's no similarity whatsoever. So it's around about 160, 170 people. And we provide land and marine satcoms, the range. It's not just the equipment, it's not just the connectivity, it's what we call our value-added services, and the way that the data is delivered is becoming much, much more important. So in fact, we are very simply a remote internet company. 70% of our business is marine. So, we have a very marine focus, which goes back to my roots.
Looking at your business today, before the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, what do you count as the biggest drivers for your business?
The biggest drivers are 2 things. Really, the growth of internet use in remote locations, because more and more people need more and more connectivity. It's growing. I mean, our competitors are growing too, but there is a need. And then the other part of that is how you address that particular part of the business, how you deliver and what you deliver, because it's not just, to use that old term, a data pipe. People keep thinking it's just a voice pipe. It isn't. It's actually a data pipe, and it's an internet connection, and it's much more complicated than that because of priorities and because of multiple bearers. So it gets a little bit more complicated. So that really is the business driver for us, because we've developed quite a lot of tools that can help us in delivering the operational efficiency that people need, because people want whatever they have to work in the most cost-effective and practical way for their organization. So, there's crew welfare, and there's the digitalization of ships. There's a whole range of new needs that need to be resolved.
But when you look at the digitalization trend moving through the maritime and offshore fields today, can you put in perspective the pace and direction that you see?
Well, what we recognized was a few years ago was that people needed to know what was actually happening, because if you send a message, it just disappears and pops up somewhere else. Well, how does that happen? And is it efficient? And is somebody else going to listen in? And all of that sort of stuff. So we decided to set up our own terrestrial network. It's called Integra. And we have a satellite network and a terrestrial network. So it's not, the data doesn't just go through the internet, it goes through our dedicated network. We need to see what's going on, and we need to intelligently control that. So we spend a lot of time and money on a software package, which we call Integra C, an Integra control packet of data, and determine whether you want it or not. So if there's somebody spending a lot of time on Candy Crush or some wasteful app, then it can just be cut out. And probably 20 to 25% of the traffic we see on ships is just, to use your word, trash. We would say rubbish. So if you can cut the trash, then you're going to save money because you don't need so much bandwidth. So that really has been our focus, to provide a network that is efficient, and you don't need to waste so much bandwidth.
You mentioned that about 70% of your business is in the maritime sphere. Can you give us some metrics?
We generally look at it by product type. One of the best things we did a long time ago was we managed to get this is at the bottom end. We had a requirement to provide comms to 700 ships, and these were some fishing vessels in the Far East. And what we did was we provided an iridium handset and some sticky tape. So they just taped it onto a post in the bridge, and that was it, because they wanted the lowest cost way of providing comms to themselves. But then if you look at some of the larger commercial operators, then it's a VSAT, it's with VSAT failover, it's with GSM integration, it's with VoIP services, and a whole range of technology to meet their particular need. I guess our marine business is in the order of $60–70 million a year, so that's fairly busy. We're small, but in a small but beautifully formed, I would say that.
When you look at the market today, by vessel niche or by country, where do you see opportunity?
The market is very competitive, and everybody wants the best they can get. So for us, that's actually quite a good thing, because the vessel sector that we want to go for are the companies that are thinking about their comms and how their comms can improve their efficiency. So if a guy just wants to buy a SATCOM, that's okay, but that's not really a growth part of our business. The growth part of our business is tailoring a solution to meet a particular need. And you might think that everybody wants the same, but they don't, because you can't just talk about marine. When people talk about marine, it can be, a canoe or a cruise ship and anything in between. And they vary so much. So we really are looking for companies that want to improve their efficiency and really understand how they can benefit from digitalisation and benefit from good crew comms, maybe in the off-peak, for example, and how they can monitor their cargo, how they can monitor their engines and all those other things. So that's really the direction of travel. And that's where the opportunity is for us, because we've got a lot of tools in the toolbox.
What is the greatest challenge that you see today to meet the evolving demands in the maritime sector?
I think I'm going back to the same thing, the adoption of technology and how the technology is adopted. But that spills into our business and how we need to have the right equipment and, more importantly, the right people to be able to respond. Because if you're dealing with an IT manager who runs a fleet of 100 ships, he's got a big job. If he loses 1 or 2 ship days, it's easy to do, and that's completely different to somebody maybe running offshore tugs, because they've got 2 tugs and their needs are different. So I'll really just go back to this ever-growing complexity of the market and the changes that are coming through in different speeds in different organizations, and then we have to adjust our business to meet that requirement.
Just to start us off, when you look at the COVID-19 pandemic and the current business situation, can you discuss how this event has materially impacted your business?
Yep, sure. 2 things. One, in April, May, we suffered a bit of a stop. A lot of companies said, we don't know what's happening, so they didn't spend the money. They said they will delay the upgrade till next year. So we had quite a stop in terms of hardware sales and some noticeable drop in communication. Fortunately, we are not in the big cruise ship business, because I perhaps wouldn't be speaking to you now. That was never a large part. We have some small adventure cruise type ships, but not any of the big ones, thank goodness. But the biggest impact upon us was working from home and being able to support our customers throughout, because we had already adopted Teams. Zoom came along, but we'd adopted Teams, and we'd adopted the facility to work from home in case something happened, in case we had a contingency plan, and the contingency plan worked really well. We managed to provide our 24/7 support team throughout, and we actually had quite a few customers come to us because they realized that we were open for business and there was no noticeable change.